Hello there, welcome to the vlog in which I am going to finish my book. Given how I have most of Act 3 left and at least 15 chapters to write, that is a terrifying statement to make, but regardless, I am finishing my book in this video. If you're new here, my name is Marta. I am working on the second book in my debut fantasy project Side, and at the start of 2025 I set myself the goal of writing the entirety of Draft 2 in 2025. This was admittedly not my only writing goal, but it's the only writing goal that has survived all the way until December. And at this point I have just over 3 weeks left to make it happen. I have an outline, but it's not fully set in stone. I have been fiddling around with it as I go quite a bit. But I can tell you that I have at least 15 chapters left. That number might increase between now and the end of the book. So this morning I made myself a little tracker. There are 18 squares in here. Let's not talk about the fact that I screwed up my multiplying so badly that I ended up with twice the amount of squares that I actually wanted, but we made it work with this sort of like grid, like chessboard type thing. Only the green squares count as chapters. The black squares are decoration, aka covering up the fact that I'm bad at maths. I'm so happy with how it turned out. It is so cute. And there are 18 squares in here, just in case. As I said, I'm hoping I'll only need 15, but also there is just about enough space that I could squeeze in another row at the bottom if I wanted to turn this into 21 squares. So I think we're good. I think the entire book should fit into this. It's more of a question of whether I can actually write that many chapters in less than 3 weeks. I started working on chapter 45 this morning, and if you're keeping track, you might be wondering how I think I'm going to write 15 chapters in less than a month when it's taking me 11 months to get to chapter 45. And you wouldn't be wrong to be asking that question. There is a good chance that this is me being entirely delusional and I am going to crash and burn within the next week. However, there are a couple of things I am doing to make this a little bit more realistic. I wouldn't call any of this realistic, but like moving us slightly in the direction of realism and away from complete delusion. There are a couple of decisions that I have made to make this possible. And the first one is that this is going to be the only YouTube video that I work on in the month of December. I normally try and aim for 2 to 3 videos per month. This month we're just making 1 video. And that should free up like at least 15 hours that I would normally spend editing, and I can pour those into my writing. That's a lot of time to spend writing. There is of course the fact that video editing takes less energy than writing. I tend to do it late in the evening when I don't have energy for other things. So there's a good chance not all of those 15 hours are going to be repurposed for writing, but if I spend some of those hours writing and some of them resting, that's already going to help, I hope. The other thing that's going to help is that I have some time off for Christmas, so I have a whole 5-day weekend at the end of the month that I can dedicate entirely for writing. I'm not traveling anywhere. I will be spending some time with my boyfriend, but there will be a lot of time just writing by myself, hopefully. And I'm really looking forward to that, just like actually getting some time to myself over Christmas working on my book. I think that's going to be really nice and hopefully really helpful in actually accomplishing this goal. And then the third thing I'm kind of counting on here is that some of my chapters later on in Act 3 are actually not that bad. Most of Act 3 I'm rewriting from scratch, but there's the last few chapters, like right up at that climax, final image, all of those moments are actually going to stay more or less the same. So I'm only rewriting 10 chapters in line editing 5, which is going to make this a little bit easier as well. Now this is still going to be tight. This is a very ambitious goal considering my usual pace, and it's going to take a small miracle for me to accomplish it. And I am scared, but I'm also really excited to make this happen. I really just want to lock in for the last month of the year, really put everything I have into proving to myself that I can prioritize this book and really actually spend consistent large amounts of time writing as opposed to my usual 10 minutes per day. I really want to make this happen, so I am going to give it my absolute best. It is extremely rare for me to actually feel like vlogging midweek, but I've just got back from work. We had like a little mini Christmas gathering. I had half a cup of mulled wine, so I'm a little bit drunk because I have zero alcohol tolerance. And I just felt like having a little bit of a chat. Not because I'm drunk, just because there's some exciting things going on regarding the project at the minute. First of all, I finally get to use this. I have been chipping away at what I called chapter 45 since Sunday, since actually well before Sunday. And a couple of days ago I felt this desire to sit down on the sofa and write, I felt in this comfy, creative, cozy mood where I wanted to sit down and work on my book, but I was absolutely dreading working on chapter 45. And as I was going about getting all the blankets out, getting myself comfy, I realized that maybe the reason I feel like writing but don't feel like working on this chapter is because I don't need this chapter in the book. And lo and behold, I have now gotten rid of that chapter. So I've basically decided to move some of the bits from that chapter into the earlier chapter and some of the bits into the later chapter. So chapter 45 as it stands doesn't exist anymore, we now have something else in there. And I've now gone backwards and I finished chapter 44, which was technically already finished, but we've made it work so that chapter 45 is no longer needed. So I'm gonna count that, even if it technically means we've gone backwards one chapter, we're gonna count that as the first chapter that is getting tracked in this. I am obsessed with how this turned out, it is so cute. And I am not just going to be ticking these because that would be boring. I have a little bit of something that I purchased recently and I've been holding off on opening until I finish that first chapter, and I'm so excited to finally get to use this. But if you have not seen these before, this is a craft punch. It is a star-shaped cutter to make stars. Effectively, that is all this is. But if used in combination with this, which to you might look like a blank piece of paper, this is not a blank piece of paper. This is a little bit of leftover sticker paper that I stole from work, which means I can now make white star-shaped stickers, which can go in my black little squares. Don't tell me that's not amazing. I am so pleased. I don't know if this is going to be a strong enough cutter to cut through this very thick sticky paper. If it doesn't work, I can actually just use white paper, normal white paper, and use glue to stick it on. But that would make me sad. I really hope that this works. So we're gonna give it a try. I am far too happy and excited about this. Let's test it. I think that just goes in there. There's a little something that might need removing down there, but if I just try it like this, it's a little bit small, but I think that's going to stop focusing on my face. Dear God, why? No. There we go. I think it's a tiny little bit small, but I think it's going to work. This makes me so happy. And look at how little paper that used. This is how many stars I can make with this little strip. And no one's going to stop me from stealing more paper from work. No one uses this. This goes in the bin after it's been used. I can manufacture 1,000,000 tiny sticker stars and put them absolutely everywhere. It's been a little bit over a week since my last update, and this is how the situation is looking at the minute. So we have chapter 44, which I had finished but went back to. This is chapter 45, the new and improved version. And this is chapter 45.5, because reasons. Now, also because reasons, this chapter, which is almost done, is going to be chapter 44.5, because I realized that chapter 46 was a little bit too late in the outline, so I sort of moved it up. So it's now, it's going here, but I'm putting the star here when I get to it. And other than chapter 44.5, I have another 11 chapters left to write. And this is significant because today is the 20th of December, which means that I have 11 chapters to write in 11 days. It has been nearly 2 weeks since I started this video and was 3 chapters in, but I still believe that we can make this happen. I think we're past the difficult stuff. I think I've said in every single video for the last like 3 or 4 vlogs that I've just gotten past the difficult self-chapters, and then I realized that the next self-chapters are also difficult. But as long as I continue believing that, I will continue believing that I can finish this book this year, and that is what I need to keep moving forwards. So, unfortunately, it's not as easy as writing 1 chapter per day, because out of the remaining 11 days of the year, I am working for 5 of them. Which means that on 5 days, there is no way in heaven that I will be able to write an entire chapter. So I'm going to need to do a little bit extra on the days that I'm off. I don't know how much hope I have that this is getting finished this year. I have just enough hope to keep trying, I think. But the main thing is, I am actually, now that I skipped that chapter I was really struggling with, I've really enjoyed the chapters that I've been writing. I'm really enjoying the current chapter, and I'm really looking forward to the chapter right after this one. So I'm having a really good time with the story, and it's really nice that I'm just enjoying being in the story again. I think it's been a little bit of a while since I've actually had such a fun set of chapters all in one go that I'm actually looking forward to. And hopefully that is going to help, because as of right now, we need to get to this square. But there is a chance that more chapters will be added, or there's a chance that more chapters will be deleted. So we're not doing terribly, but we're also not doing great. But we're gonna keep working. Happy 27th of December, happy belated Christmas to those that celebrate, and happy 4.5 days left until the end of the year. This is where we stand at the minute, so I think since I last actually spoke to you, we have done 5 more chapters. And the other thing that I've been working on is re-outlining the rest of the book. So I had a bit of a reread of everything that I have left, the last few chapters, and I've figured out that we have 6 chapters left from this point on. And when I first made this tracker, I remember saying like, oh, I've got 15 chapters left, but it's probably gonna be more. It's not gonna be more, it's gonna be less. And part of the reason for that is because the first half of Act 3 was very underwritten. There were a lot of missing chapters where I had left myself notes saying, add a chapter here for whatever. There was also a lot of missing information, missing threads that I hadn't tied up. Things that I knew I needed to add but wasn't really sure where to fit in. A lot of those ended up being new scenes because they just didn't fit anywhere else. So for the first half of Act 3, it felt like I wasn't making any progress. Like I would write 1 chapter and then I would realize there's a chapter missing. So in terms of how much is left till the end of the book, we just weren't moving forwards. And having come from that to the second half of Act 3, I assumed it would be the same sort of deal, but I was wrong. For the second half of Act 3, the pace really picks up. There's a lot of shorter chapters, there's a lot of POV changes with a lot of things happening in parallel, And that's a style that I really like. I really like chapters getting shorter and shorter towards the end of the book. But I think in draft 1 for this particular book, I was overdoing it a little bit. There's a couple of chapters where they're literally 300 words long because I thought the cliffhanger worked really well for that chapter, and I figured, oh, I'll fill it up later and make it bigger. I don't think that's needed. I think some of them can be combined, others are fine, but some of them can be put together. And this is why it's actually, so the track is gonna finish like that. That's how much we have left. The bad news from that is that there are some big changes coming up. The chapter that I'm currently working on, that I started this morning, it's a combined chapter from what was previously a Fred point of view character and a Lisa point of view character. And something that I noticed is that the second chapter, the one from Lisa's point of view, she's very much just watching this fight going on, and I think I realized that when I was writing the first draft because I never finished that fight scene. I sort of left myself a note in brackets of like who wins, who gets injured, etc., and kept going. And just reading it back, it felt like Lisa's point of view is not adding anything here. She's just a little bit on the sidelines, like helping out a bit, but not really. And I think just keeping that scene to Shred's point of view would make it much stronger. There's also a little bit of a timeline problem where there was like a whole night in between those chapters. I don't think that's needed either. I think we can improve the pacing by making some of these chapters longer and less jumpy, but simultaneously a shorter timeline, if that makes any sense. So that chapter's gonna need considerable changes, and the chapter after that is gonna be a combination of 3 chapters, all from Ryan's point of view and all under 500 words. And hopefully they won't need that much because the chapters were fine, they're just too short. And again, this ties into this timeline problem of like, we have 2 things going on in parallel, and one of them felt like multiple days and the other one could have happened in a couple of hours, but I was dragging it out on purpose to make it work in parallel, which is not needed. We're gonna like tighten that up a lot. But so for that Ryan chapter, the main thing that I'm gonna be working on is the transition between those already existing scenes, making them happen more one after the other, and like something might happen in between or not, I'm not sure. But those 2 next chapters are the ones that need the most work. After that, the next 4 chapters are basically there. Like, they need line edits, they need consistency changes because some stuff changed in book 1 that I now need to implement into book 2. But I think those last 4 chapters aren't gonna be too bad. So something that I've done to make sure I keep myself accountable here is I've actually scheduled a stream for tomorrow, which I'm calling my finishing my book stream. For that to actually be feasible, I need to finish at least 1, if not both, of these complicated chapters today, because otherwise, like, I've got 6 chapters left. I cannot write 6 chapters in one day. We gotta make some progress today to make this happen. I think I can do it, but worst case, if I don't finish the book tomorrow, I have 3 more days this year. It just happens that I'm working all 3 of those days, and it feels kind of not as eventful to finish a book at 6 AM before work. That doesn't feel quite as fun as finishing it on a weekend during a stream and like getting to do a little celebrating after. So we're gonna try and finish it tomorrow, but not the end of the world if we don't. And yeah, I feel like I've been taking it very easy the last few days. It's been really nice. Like, over Christmas I've been kind of writing a bit, but I haven't been like sitting down to write for long periods of time. I've been doing maybe like half an hour here and there, and it's been really nice to just spend time with my boyfriend. We've been going on a lot of walks and it's just been really lovely. But this weekend, this last 2 days before I get back to work, I need to get myself back in gear. I'm feeling a little bit rusty just from not having done that much the last few days, but I'm also feeling very refreshed and very well rested, so we're gonna do everything we can. Hello, hello! Welcome to a very special stream because I am determined that I will be finishing my book today. I say determined, we might not finish the book today, but I'm hoping we will. You will be pleased to know that I finished that chapter. I started and finished the next chapter effectively. I'm starting to get really tired, as you can probably tell by my inability to form complete sentences. I've not quite finished that chapter, but I've got like maybe 2 or 3 paragraphs left, like we're almost there. I finished the previous chapter that I had almost finished anyway, and then started the next one. But I'm so close, I am so close. We did it. We did it. We finished the book. I still can't believe I actually managed this before the year ended. That was a really intense couple of weeks right at the end there, and I am so tired. It's been a couple of days because quite honestly, after the 7-hour stream, the last thing I wanted to do was sit down in front of the camera to give you an update, but we're feeling a little bit better now. I'm feeling a little bit more rested, and I'm ready to chat a little bit about how everything went. During that last day of writing, during the stream, I wrote a little over 5,000 words in total. It was a 7-hour stream. I basically spent the entire day in here just like doing sprint after sprint after sprint until we finished the book. I will put up the exact statistics on the screen, but I'm not gonna go through them. And in terms of the statistics for the actual book, I actually wrote them on my little tracker. The second book in the Project Side trilogy, as it stands, like the second draft, is currently at 104,192 words, and I have spent 170 hours and 17 minutes just on the second draft, which is a lot of hours. I'm wondering how many that is per year, if I just do the maths real quick. Per year? I meant per month, of course. That works out to 14 hours per month, but actually in January I was working on book 1, which I was supposed to be finishing last year, and it took me a little bit longer. And I had a couple of months where I was dealing with family problems, so I wasn't writing, so I'm actually like pretty happy with the amount that I've written in total this year. It's been quite intense, and I'm just really proud of myself for prioritizing writing so much this year despite everything that's been happening. Before I wrap this up, one thing I wanted to talk to you about is that I'm very aware that there's a lot of people that are trying or have been trying to finish the draft by the end of the year as well. This isn't a particularly original goal, it is quite common. And I just wanted to just remind people that, you know, this is a fun, exciting thing to do. It's like the year's ending, let's finish all of the projects, but At the end of the day, it is an entirely meaningless deadline. It is just another day, and if you finish your book in the first week of January, the second week of January, any time in January or February or March, that is more than good enough. You've written a book. Like, you should be proud of yourself. I'm proud of you. I hope that you had a wonderful end of the year and a great start to 2026, and I'm really excited for some of my ideas and projects and things that I've got coming up this year. I'm really looking forward to sharing them with you, and I hope that you stick around for another year worth of videos.